Start again whenever you like.
Okay, here we go. Hi, I'm Noelle Murphy, and I'm a spokesperson for the Batonga Foundation. Today I'd like to talk to you about the people of Benin and of this organization created by one of its own. Throughout developing nations in Africa, education of girls is not culturally acceptable, even to the detriment of these societies. The Batonga Foundation has been working to change this view through the education of girls. Batonga is primarily supporting communities, families, and young girls in the West African country of Benin. Beninese families have a strong communal family structure. The men are head of household, but the women do most of the work, including farming, raising of the children, and creating and selling the handicrafts they sell in the local markets. The elderly women of Benin are held in very high regard. Benin is a fairly new democracy, and the government has made positive steps in ensuring equal rights of all men and women. In 2004, the Family Code was passed, giving women property rights and inheritance rights, increasing their rights in marriage. Forced marriage and child marriage became prohibited, although this is still not yet fully enforced. Women do have the right to vote, and they do have positions of local and national power. There are 8 women in the National Assembly, 6 female ministers in the 26-member cabinet, and 3 of 77 elected mayors are women. In fact, Benin used to be known for its elite women's military force. Despite their strong place in the family and the legal rights established by the Constitution, women in Benin are still not treated equally. Sexual harassment, domestic violence, and rape are still prevalent. Female genital mutilation is still fairly common, averaging 17% of young women and even higher in several areas. It is practiced on women ranging in age from infancy to 30 years of age. The disparity of the sexes really starts with their children. Young girls are forced into marriage, sold as servants, or prostitutes. In 2007, government established a free public education system for all, but it's slow to take hold. In some parts of the country, girls still receive no formal education. With a population of over 7 million people and a high birth rate, Benin has improved in recent years in providing primary education to its children. Today, more than 56% of boys over the age of 15 can read and write. For girls, it's 26%. Gender disparities against girls are still quite high in Benin, with only half as many girls as boys making the transition from primary to secondary school. The Batonga Foundation hopes to help make this transition from primary to secondary school easier for both girls and boys and their families. Batonga was created by Angelique Kidjo, a Grammy Award-winning singer-songwriter who grew up in Benin. She is a UNICEF Goodwill Ambassador, and she speaks and performs in concerts throughout the world benefiting peace, human rights, AIDS, and education in Africa. She created the Batonga Foundation in her effort to give back to the community she grew up in. Batonga is an advocate for community awareness to promote and support girls' education by addressing the gender prejudice and cultural traditions that restrict empowerment of women in general and their access to education in particular. They build schools, provide supplies, and more importantly, provide scholarships to young girls in Benin and in surrounding West African nations in need. In choosing the individual girls, schools, and communities to receive support, priority is given to the most disadvantaged populations within the targeted areas. Particular attention is given to girls who are AIDS orphans or whose families are affected by AIDS. This is significant because there are 370,000 orphans in Benin, most whose parents have died of AIDS. AIDS education for women is still very poor. Therefore, mother-to-child transfer of HIV is quite high. The AIDS epidemic in Africa will not be brought under control until the people are educated, and it needs to start with the women. When young parents die, children are pulled from school to work their jobs their parents once did. Batonga gives these children a chance for a future. When a woman is educated, it changes not only her life, but those of her children and her family. Educating women translates to higher economic productivity, reduced child mortality, improved family nutrition and health, and increased prevention of HIV/AIDS. And it greatly increases the chances of education for the next generation, for both boys and girls. Once an African woman is educated, she fights to ensure both sons and daughters receive an education. This is a tradition that is passed on from family to family, from generation to generation, and a tradition that is going to change the future for Benin. There's a growing consensus that the most cost-effective way to help African nations reduce poverty and improve the quality of life for their citizens is to support education for girls. UN Secretary General Kofi Annan summed it up when he said, "To educate girls is to reduce poverty." Please consider giving to Batonga. You can help Angelique and me in our mission to educate girls in Africa in order to give them the strength and the tools they need to be the mothers of change. Thank you.
You got it, girl. 640.